Hey YouTube, Alicia here. I'm here to review The Real Housewives of New York, Season 10, Episode 3. Let's get started. Did you guys watch Episode 3, y'all? I was so into it. You guys, I have said that New York is not my favorite, but it is up there. It is one of my top favorite shows on Bravo, and they just do not disappoint. And if you saw my episode, you know what I'm talking about. This episode is Hamptons week. This is the week where all the ladies go to Hamptons and they stay in their respective homes and host parties and such. We watch all the ladies packing, getting ready to go. And here's the setup. Normally, Carol stays with Bethany, but there's something going on with them, you guys. I kind of alluded to it last review. And Carol's not staying with Bethany this time. Carol says that Bethany's place is full, so she's going to stay with Tinsley. And given that there's some sort of rift going, I felt like Carol's perspective on it was very diplomatic. And my first mind was thinking, maybe Bethany didn't want her there, but she didn't want to say anything negative, so she just said it was full. But then we hear Bethany is talking about how suddenly Tinsley and Carol are the best of friends. They do everything together, and that Carol chose to stay at Tinsley's house. That Bethany did invite her, but Carol chose to stay with Tinsley. So Luann is staying at her own place, and she's letting Sonia stay with her. So we've got Ramona at her place. We've got Tinsley and Carol together. We've got Bethany at her place, and we've got Luann and Sonia together at their place. So we see all the ladies traveling up to the Hamptons, and we've got Carol and Tinsley and Dorinda together. Dorinda's driving. We have Ramona driving in her new car. It's Maserati. I think that's what I heard. Go Ramona. And Luann seems to have a new car too. She's got a Mercedes, and I'm thinking, well, you just go. Luann is pulling out all the stops. She's reinventing herself. She is moving forward. We got the new hair last week. We got the Diana Ross costume. Now we have the Mercedes. Is Luann going through a midlife crisis? Because what is going on? We see Ramona pull up to her house in the Hamptons, and she tells us that she has asked a friend to let her look at some pieces of art because she's considering buying new art. She's decorating her Hampton house, just like she redecorated her apartment, and I think she's still renovating it. So these men bring over these huge pieces of art. Well, Ramona puts them to work. She asks them to take her luggage upstairs to the closet. She has them helping rearrange the furniture. She has them helping hook up the electronics. Ramona has no shame. Like they say, you have not because you ask not. So, hey, Ramona's getting her stuff together. So all of them getting to the Hamptons and getting situated and set up is just the fluff. Let's get into the meat and the potatoes of the episode. So the first night, Bethany is hosting a dinner. It's for her birthday, and she's decided to have all the ladies over to a restaurant to have this little dinner party. So Bethany shows up, and she's all apologetic, and she's saying she's late and all this. Well, the hostess says, well, you're the first to arrive. And she's so pissed. She's like, what? I tried to be 10 minutes late. And remember in Mexico last year when she kept being the first one to dinner and she got so mad that all the ladies kept being late? It's like round 2. But the difference between New York and Beverly Hills is the lateness is not going to be a storyline. That is just too small for the New York housewives to focus on. So just forget all about that. During the dinner, once the ladies all arrive, Dorinda starts to tell Luann about the rift between Sonia and Tinsley, starts giving her the backstory, what's going on. Sonia decides to take a moment and confront Carol about the fact that she emailed her to wish her luck on the marathon, and she gave her this wonderful praising email about how much she was so supportive, etc. Well, Carol responds THX, like thanks, right? And Sonia's really offended by it. Well, Luann is saying, well, I also sent her an email, and she at least wrote back to me, thanks, with the word spelled out. But then Bethany says, well, at least you two got a response. I didn't even get a text back at all. And so Carol says, yeah, I texted you back. And Bethany's like, no, you didn't. And I called you. So we get this little talking head of Bethany saying Carol's become very difficult to get a hold of these days because she and Tinsley are thick as thieves. So then that becomes a thing where Bethany's saying, I texted you, you didn't respond. Carol's insisting that she did. They each take out their cell phones and okay. So Carol is able to prove that, yes, she did write back to Bethany. It just wasn't exactly when Bethany had written earlier in the day. So that gets squashed. But it's setting the tone for, I'm sure, what's coming up later in the season. So far, we still haven't heard why Bethany didn't go to the reunion. Now, we know Bethany's busy, right? We know, reunion. I meant to say the marathon. We know she's been very busy with Puerto Rico. We know she's been busy with her new spinoff with Frederick. We know Bethany's busy anyway. She's running a multi-million-dollar business, and she's a single mother. So there's probably 1,000 reasons why she didn't go, and maybe none of them have anything to do with her being on the outs with Carol. But it's interesting, there's been nothing overtly said. And really, none of the other ladies has said why they didn't go. They've just been quick to say they were supported by sending an email. So finally, the moment Bethany has been waiting for. Luann actually tells Bethany at dinner that maybe she should have kind of heeded her warning about Tom, and tells Bethany that she's right. Now, Bethany did kind of have to force the issue and keep telling Luann, I'm right, right? I was right. I was right. I was right. I was right. And so finally, Luann's like, yeah, you were right. So Bethany's like, yes. She's so excited. And it's so interesting to see their dynamic this season, because if you were watching this show way back in the beginning, you know that Luann and Bethany have had a very tumultuous relationship. Even just last year at the Berkshires. And the year before that too. It's been up and down with those two. So it was kind of nice this episode to see them getting along. And I'm sure all of that had to do with the fact that Luann actually said Bethany was right about something. And it kind of stroked her ego a little bit. But it was good. Luann opened up a little bit about Tom. And she was saying she was in love and she had blinders on. And, she kind of wishes she had listened. And she just kind of, went for it. And she was in love and whatever. So Bethany was super gracious. And so while they're talking, Ramona keeps trying to jump in and say something about it. And Luann shuts her down. She says, look, I don't want to talk about it. I've been through a lot. I've talked about it a lot. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And Ramona said, you never talked about it with me. And so Luann just said, look, I just won't talk about it at all. And she really could have said, I definitely don't want to talk about it with you. Do we not remember Missy last season? How you kept inviting her every single place and you kept on calling his ex-girlfriends, like trying to blow this up and torpedo it? Why would I come to you and cry on your shoulder? But she didn't go there. She kept it classy and just said, I don't want to talk about it, and left it at that. Tinsley pipes up and says, well, Luann, I was trying to get you to talk to all the ladies when we met last time. And Luann was like, look, you were mean. And she was. They showed a flashback of her. Tinsley was rude, trying to be supportive to Luann going through her little heartbreak. And so, interestingly enough, Luann says to Tinsley, well, look, you were going through your little spot too, and I was trying to encourage you as well with Scott. And we learned a little bit more. Remember when Tinsley was saying that there was pressure on the relationship, so they took a break? Well, that was left very vague. And I was wondering, well, who was putting the pressure? So it seems like the fact that they were living in two different cities was a problem, with him being in Chicago and her being in New York. And so she says that, Ramona even asked her, well, couldn't you have moved to Chicago to be with him if that was the case? And she says, well, it wasn't an offer. It wasn't offered to me. So then Ramona says, oh, so he didn't ask you to come live with him? And she says, no. And I totally would have. And I was thinking, so see, here we go. Tinsley is all in, just head first. She barely even knows this guy, and she's already ready to move and live with him. Did she learn nothing from the last relationship? You can't cling that hard, So basically, he didn't invite her to come live with him, and they took a break, and she said she's hoping he misses her, and she would get back together with him today. And in fact, she said they hadn't been talking in the last couple of months, but now he's ready to jump back into this. So when she said that, I'm thinking, were y'all not talking during the break of y'all's filming? And now that y'all are filming again, he's ready to jump back in? I wonder if part of that is an opportunistic thing from Mr. Scott. Who knows? She's a socialite, and she's on a reality TV show, and he has his own business. I forgot, what did he invent, you guys? I want to say Ziploc bags, but I don't think that's right. He did something like that. And so that could be a good look for him to get free advertising on this show. I don't know. What did you guys think when she talked about that? After all the hubbub, Luann excuses herself and says something about music. I couldn't quite catch that. But she comes back to the table, and she's singing happy birthday to Bethany like Marilyn Monroe. And I look at Luann. She has come all the way out of her shell. She's come a long way from the stuck-up countess. She is really feeling herself now. And it's a good look. enjoying it. I'm like, I like this laid back Luann. So the next day, Carol and Tinsley and Bethany meet up to have breakfast. The only thing that comes out of it is that we learn that Tinsley has frozen some eggs before she turned 40 because she really wants to have a family, and she shared this with Scott against Carol's advice. And we kind of see a little bit more of this growing rift thing with Carol and Bethany, where Bethany walks in and Tinsley and Carol are in conversation, and Bethany stood there for a few minutes before they even really acknowledged her, and then Bethany goes to the restroom, and there's not a lot of, it's interesting. I really want to know what is really going on. Like, did something really happen, or did nothing happen and it's just editing, or who knows, you guys? I'm very curious. I need to look into it. I really do. So Luann's having a brunch, and Sonia's staying with her, so she's already there. And then Ramona and Dorinda show up. And it starts off pretty tame, you guys. It's all like kiss, kiss, and hey, good morning, whatever. They fast forward. They're all sitting down and eating and drinking. And Dorinda had talked about the fact that Sonia goes off on these monologues of insanity. And she had been talking about this on the way up there when she was riding up there with Ramona. So sure enough, at this brunch, Sonia starts talking about how Ramona was in love with her contractor, Mario, from last season. And Ramona's like, what do you mean? I wasn't in love with Mario. And Sonia's insisting, yes, you were. And I know. And I've got the messages. And I'm really close to you. So I know. And Ramona is mad. And she says, we're not close. We used to be, but we're not close anymore. You don't know me. And it was so surprising because, they're always like, to borrow from Atlanta, frick and frack. Like, they're always together. And so it was kind of like, what? I mean, Ramona had complained that they didn't spend much time together over the summer because Sonia was in Costa Rica. But I mean, Ramona's really holding on to this. Like, it's like a real problem in their friendship. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm not here for that. Not supporting that. So Sonia was like surprised by it. So it kind of devolves, right? All the women try to get Sonia under control. And Ramona says, look, let's just have a pact, Sonia. We need everyone to be more considerate about the way they talk about one another and, stop putting out these fake stories, basically. Sonia starts talking about herself. She said, look, I was in Costa Rica. I was having a hard time. I needed to get away after my divorce, after my, being sued over the movie and all her little things. She had to get away. So Dorinda has been drinking a lot, as Dorinda is wont to do. And she starts saying, look, we've heard it, because she's tired of Sonia talking about herself. And she said, look, I'd like to get to know more about you. I want you to to know more about me, but you've got to stop talking about all this other stuff. You got divorced 15 years ago. You talk about your husband like it was just yesterday, whatever. And it escalates because Sonia gets mad and says, look, you talk about Richard all the time and he, passed away, whatever. Why did she say that? Because Dorinda was like, look, do not compare your marriage to me burying my husband. She said, your husband left you and my husband died. And so don't you dare compare the two. And Sonia was kind of caught off guard. And she goes, he didn't leave me. And she said, he left you. You were messing around in the south of France and he married your friend. Like, totally blew up Sonia's spot. I was so shocked, y'all. I was like, what? Like, have we ever heard that Sonia was the catalyst of that marriage breaking up, you guys? Like, I did not see this coming. I was shocked. And Sonia was speechless. Like, she had nothing to say. Dorinda was so pissed. She called her a name and she got herself at the table. Dorinda is ruthless. When she's drinking, when you piss her off, all bets are off. And so she leaves nothing but carnage. And I was like, man. And I started thinking back to when, Sonia was talking about selling her townhouse and she was crying. Remember taking the pictures down and all that? And she was just really sad. And I used to feel sorry, like, wow, poor Sonia. I always thought that her husband left her, but that he married somebody else because he cheated or whatever. And I always saw Sonia as the victim. Now, I don't know if Dorinda's telling the truth because, like I said, she was drinking. But I never considered the fact that Sonia might have been cheating all over him or whatever. But it was just like mind-blowing. What did you guys think? That was like the biggest bomb to drop on this show, which is why I like this show, because they don't hold back on the tea. I was living. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this week's episode and this hot, scalding tea about Sonia's relationship. Next week looks bananas. Like it just keeps on going, y'all. This is why I have New York at the top of the list. Because it's not fake manufactured stuff. It is like true, like real stuff that comes out of these shows. So anyways, I was here for it. I really enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. I can't wait to hear your opinion, your comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!